Hey gang, welcome back to System Breakdowns. This week I'm excited to be presenting Valentina Shevchenko, who is a through and through martial artist. Number 2 pound for pound female fighter of all time. She is an amazing example of somebody who has a great systematic approach to fighting. She is an excellent case study for System Breakdowns. She's a lifelong martial artist, and it's in her family. She very like Lyoto Machida in this sense. Like, she grew up, she's been doing fighting for 28, 29 years at this point. She is somebody who is a Taekwondo black belt, a K1 champion, a Muay Thai champion. Her mom's a high-level Taekwondo black belt. Her sister is a high-level fighter. This is a through and through martial artist. And as a result, you can see how she has used that experience to build a system. And we're going to talk about that system today and what has made her so successful. We're going to talk about her offensive tactics, her defensive tactics. We're going to talk about her counter tactics and how no matter what they give her, it's going to give her the feed that she's looking for and how she can anticipate and give the right response based on what they're giving her. We're going to talk about her takedowns and cage work. We're going to talk about what she does on the ground, and we're going to talk about how this all pulls together. This is an amazing case study for system breakdowns, and I'm really happy to use this as an example of what we should be doing when we build our own systems. So that being said, stay tuned and let's start talking about what it is that allows her to be so successful. Alrighty, so let's start by talking about some of the basics when you talk about Valentina Shevchenko before we get into countering and offensive stuff and things like that in her actual striking. There's a couple things that I want to kind of throw out that are general, very important things that she does that I want you to pay attention to. The first thing is, like most kickers, she fights out of a southpaw stance. She fights right foot forward because it gives her access to the liver. 90% of fighters who fight orthodox, it also gives her more range management and stuff like that. If they do happen to fight and switch stance like Joanna Jędrzejczyk did, that's okay. She doesn't mind because she'll fight out of this because she doesn't want to give up her own liver, her own liver access by switching back. It's totally fine. Now, what she does is she has a very kind of fidgety style that she uses with her hands up here. And this works for two reasons. One is that an object in motion stays in motion, so it gives her a better ability to constantly react and keep moving. It's the very same thing like in Taekwondo where we do this a lot so that we come up into our kicks. She does this from a smaller, more fidgety version of this. The other thing I want to mention is that it gives her this kind of feeling of being quirky. It almost feels like fighting a spazzy white belt because it's this like kind of weird jerky movement that she does where it's very kind of spazzy. That makes it hard to attack somebody because I think we've all sparred enough spazzy white belts that we know that feeling and how awkward it is. It doesn't have that looseness of somebody who's experienced. And so it almost feels more dangerous because as I try to enter, I never know when the attack's coming because it does feel so spazzy. Quirky fighters are hard to fight. So this works to her advantage. Next thing I want to talk about is funneling and conservation of motion, conservation of energy. This is a really big part of her game, and I want to spend a minute talking about it because what you'll notice is that she never moves unless it's an attack that is going to land. This is a really important thing. A lot of fighters will throw probing strikes trying to generate a reaction, and people respond to it, right? She is so good at reading her opponent and funneling them into a very specific attack to counter that she doesn't move for anything except something that's going to hit her. So people will throw punches this far away, they'll be probing and stuff like that. She doesn't respond to it. She stays here until the actual attack is coming, the one that she's waiting for, and then she responds to it. It is a very proactive approach towards countering, and this shows a very high-level game because it's not something that most people can do. You need to really know how to read your opponent, and you really need to know how to funnel them very well in order to not respond to stuff like this. And also, it means that all of her footwork, her head work, all of her defensive movements are all tied in with countering on such a high level that she doesn't do any extraneous movements. Her footwork, you never see her do extraneous footwork. It's always exactly where she wants to be. Very, very rarely will you see her step off in anticipation of something that doesn't come. This conservation of movement and conservation of energy gives her endurance forever. She never gets tired during her fights because, yeah, she has amazing, cardio and stuff like that, but when you fight 5-round fights, she doesn't even look tired at the end of it because she conserves herself so well that she doesn't react unnecessarily. And this is a very important strategy and also ties in with our countering. So when we talk about the next segment where we talk about countering, I want you to keep that in mind, that how well she has anticipated and funneled them into a very specific attack that she doesn't have to move unless she needs to. So stay tuned. Hey gang, so let's talk about Valentina Shevchenko's striking in terms of situations because that's what we're looking at here. there's really 4 different types of situations that we're talking about. There's the opportunistic striker. There's somebody who has a constant slight forward pressure. There's the in and out, aggressive attack, disengage. Aggressive attack, disengage. And then finally there's somebody who's just non-committal. So she breaks down her attacks based on these 4 different scenarios. When you talk about somebody who is opportunistic, there's 2 different types of attacks that she's going to run into on this. The first one is from right here. They're going to try to throw some open side body kicks. And the second one is that they're going to throw some leg kicks. Now, for those of you who have done the Nemean fight system and watched the videos on this, we have gone into detail on this, and she does exactly what we do on this. The leg kicking game from an opportunistic standpoint, she basically, whenever possible, she's going to check her foot back or just do a regular leg check. Very common. But the important thing is that every time they attack her leg, she makes it a Pyrrhic victory, because as soon as they catch her, she catches them. If they catch her on the inside, she catches them. If they catch her on the outside, she'll try to move her foot out of the way and avoid it, and then she catches them. So her goal is to outwin them by trying to evade it, but she knows that the time that they're most at risk is after they throw their kick and they step down here. So if I try to attack her leg and I step down, this is a time where I'm usually planted and she can do more damage from here and she's more likely to land. Whereas their attacks on her, it's sort of 50-50. You know, they might catch her, they might not. If they do catch her, it's usually not super damaging because they're too far outside to do any major damage. But ultimately, they're not winning fights from here. Now, if they continue to not engage, they're not going to win. But the only other option to them for here is somebody who's just trying to be opportunistic is to go for that outside body kick. So what does she do? She waits for it. She plays the leg game. And if they're not engaging, no problem. She waits for that kick to come. Why? Because it is the most obvious kick to throw the outside body kick. It is the kick that is, if you look at high percentage defenses, this is the kick you are most likely to run into. So she waits for it, and she catches it, and she gets a takedown. She has done this a lot of times, where she waits on the outside for the opportunistic attacker, she plays the leg kicking game, she checks and then counters, and then she stays out here, and then eventually what happens is they throw something to the body, she catches it, and she goes for a trip or a takedown off of it. She hits this a lot. That is the opportunistic striking. Now, the next level of aggression is going to be somebody who is a constant forward pressure. This is not somebody who's an in and out striker like, bah, 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 right? This is a constant forward pressure where they're trying to stay on her and stay in a threat range and keep backing her up. No problem. When this happens, she likes this. There's a couple of attacks that she'll commonly do. One is she'll throw that front kick. And every time they enter range, she'll let them walk into that front kick. If she catches them, great. If not, it slows them down so that they can't feel like they can press forward easily, and it'll stop their movement, which will give them opportunities for later on for somebody who's a disengaged fighter who doesn't feel like they can ever enter her. But in the meantime, as they continue to press forward, a second attack she'll do is the turning back kick. This technique works great for range control, just like the front kick, to keep them from entering and keeping too much forward pressure. They can never continue to walk her down. They walk her down, and then they risk a front kick. They walk her down, and then they eat a back kick. Over and over again, she'll do this. And eventually what she'll do is she'll level change off of it. So she comes in here, and she throws her front kick, and then if it shows the back kick, she'll come in here, and they continue to walk her down, and as they come in, they're getting used to these midsection kicks, so she switches it up, and she catches the turning wheel kick to the head. This is a common tactic for her to do a lot of level changing in her fighting. So, as they do forward pressure constantly, you'll see this. Now, from here, you'll also see her start to throw the roundhouse kick to the body. She generally will use this more when somebody's disengaged, but she will also use it for somebody who is a constant slow pressure fighter to catch into the body and essentially do the Giga kick. For those of you who don't know what the Giga kick is essentially you do roundhouse kick to the body, roundhouse kick to the body, roundhouse kick to the head. She might mix in some hand striking in between. She goes, pop, disengage, maybe throw the front kick, throw an attack, and she attacks here to the body again, and they walk her down. She throws a punch here, and then what happens is as they move in, now she's got them. She set a pattern, roundhouse kick to the body, roundhouse kick to the body. So now that she set the pattern, she's going to break it and go roundhouse kick to the head. This is a strategy she used for fighters who are disengaged or slow pressure forward. So as they do slow pressure forward, once again, front kick, turning back kick and turning wheel kick, and then roundhouse kick to the body, roundhouse kick to the body, roundhouse kick to the head. That tactic works really, really well for her, and she has landed it a bunch. So then, the next segment that you're going to talk about is situationally when somebody does very aggressive attacks. They're essentially forced to blitz her, where they can't commit, so they're going to try to come in and throw their bombs. So she stays on the outside and she waits for it. And generally her most common attacks are one of two different types of attacks. One, her counter attack is she'll drop her head down, pivot, and check hook. And it'll kind of look like this, where she's here, and she comes in and she checks them as they come in. From here, as she throws her check hook, a lot of times she'll follow it with a cross, maybe another punch, things like that. But generally speaking, she's going to drop her head, check hook, and pivot as she does this. One of the reasons this works so well is what she doesn't want is for somebody to overwhelm her with punches and overwhelm her. By doing a check hook, it gets her off the line and it forces them to eat a punch that pushes them in a different direction. And this is what she wants. She wants to not stay in that line so that as they press forward with these big attacks, she waits till they commit and they get to the closer end. She drops and throws here. And if you notice, like I said, she's never reacting unnecessarily. She might get probed at, but when they finally commit, pop! And then she might throw a cross hook again. Whatever she wants to throw. But a lot of times she'll throw punches and bunches from there by just waiting for it, being spazzy, and wait for them to commit. She knows that this fighter is getting impatient. You can see it. They're trying to slow pressure forward, and they keep eating shots, turning back kick and stuff like that. They're trying to slow pressure forward. They start to back up to the cage so they feel confident. So she knows that technique is coming, and at this moment, she just waits for it. And as soon as they come in, pop! And then finish it as she likes. The only thing that you'll see her do on occasion is a spinning back fist. And what she'll generally do is she reacts to this different. She knows that as this punch comes in, she slides her head back, steps her foot across, and spins. So she comes this way across the line. So she evades the punch, and as the punch comes here, she steps in and gets the spinning back fist. She's used that tactic a bunch of times very successfully. But her most common attack is to throw that check hook. That's usually her go-to for somebody who likes to get real aggressive. And like I said, this is for somebody who they're looking to explode in. It's blitzing or mini blitzing where they're getting impatient, right? They keep getting stopped every time they enter in, and so they're going to wait, they're going to time it, and then finally what they want is, man, they want to catch her. And so what they're going to do is as soon as they come in, they're going to eat that check hook. And this is what she catches them on. Pop! Over and over again, she will do this. Finally, the last type of fighter is somebody who is disengaged. This person will not commit to an attack because they keep eating these check hooks. Every time they enter range, she catches them with the check hook. And the thing that's great about it too is people go, well, she just threw that same defense, that same counter hook 5 times in a row. Why aren't you doing anything about it? And the answer is, it's hard to do anything about it. When I'm trying to come in with these straight punches, it's very hard to not eat that counter hook because she's very good at moving off the line and timing it. It makes it a real challenge because she has funneled them into a predictable attack. Now, if they don't engage and they get frustrated, they sit on the outside, she has to make that person want to attack her again. She doesn't want this fight to be stagnant where they're just sitting there and they start thinking of other ways to get around her defense. She wants them frustrated so that they continue to attack her defense in the way that she wants. So she starts pressing a forward attack of her own. One of the ways, like I said, is she'll throw that Giga kick where she goes roundhouse body, roundhouse body, roundhouse head. That's one of the ways she'll do it. Most commonly, her two favorite attacks that she likes to use is she likes to throw a hook cross because of the fact that the hook cross, it opens up their guard and it opens them up for the cross. If she can hit them with the hook, that's great. But really what she's looking for is that cross, and she lands it over and over again. Where she comes in here, and they're not engaging, so pa-pa! And she catches them. And she might even throw a couple punches afterwards, but that's really her entry to most of her attacks from there. She loves it. The other one that you'll see her do from here sometimes is the Superman punch into a leg kick. One of the things that you'll see a lot of times is whenever she advances forward, she likes to punctuate it with a front leg kick, usually a leg kick. So she might throw hook, cross, leg kick. Why? Because as they're backing up, she knows that she wants to catch them on the way out. They can only run so fast, and what gets left behind is the leg. So a lot of times if she's sitting out here, pop, 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 That's a very common tactic. Or Superman punch into the leg kick, where it's just like so. Okay? So that's going to do it for the most of her striking. Now from here, she ties it in other stuff, but really it's based off of these 4 different types of scenarios, and she funnels them into it and can anticipate what they're doing, because it basically boils down to, if they attack and it's slow, she's going to catch them. So they're going to get frustrated and they're going to come at her with straight punches, because they're going to sit here, and then they're going to try to get her. So when they do, pop, pop, then they get frustrated, so they start sitting at the outside trying to figure out how to break her down. You start seeing this, or they start trying to figure it out, and that's when she gets aggressive, pop, pop, like so. It puts them into a cycle where they're constantly falling victim to whatever she wants to do. It's a very smart strategic system, and it works really well. Okay? Let's talk about what she does in terms of takedowns and in terms of cage work, both offensive and defensive. Let's start with takedowns, because we've already kind of touched on this a little bit. And it, once again, is going to depend on what kind of feed she's getting. If they're giving her the kind of opportunistic feel, like I said, she's going to wait for that kick to come, and then she's going to catch it, and she's going to inside trip, and they're going down. She's hit this a bunch of times on really good people. She is very, very good at timing this, because why? Just like the Nemean fight system, she knows this is the attack coming. It's either going to be the leg kick or the outside body kick. And if she stays on the outside and she waits for it, sooner or later they're going to throw it and she's going to get it. This happens to her all the time when somebody is not really engaging. They're just trying to be opportunistic because they're afraid to engage. So that's the first one she's going to hit. Second type of takedown she's going to hit, a lot of times occurs, is going to be when somebody does engage too heavily. She doesn't generally go for takedowns when somebody does a slow pressure forward, because generally from there she's either looking to increase or decrease their amount of engagement. That's why she just does kicks from the outside to frustrate them, so that she re-engages, and then when they come back in, they're going to feel like they want to come stronger. And she'll do this as needed. Like, she'll do front kicks a couple times, right? She'll start hitting them with the roundhouse. Eventually they're going to want to increase the pressure. And what's going to happen is, if she wants a takedown, mostly she's going to be working for her normal stuff where pop, pop. But then eventually what's going to happen is somebody gets frustrated by getting caught with a check hook 5 times in a row. So what do? They start getting overcommitted, and they start overcompensating by getting frustrated and trying to throw bombs. And this is what she's looking for. A lot of times what she'll do is she's going to come underneath and get her body clinch. She's very good at this. Sometimes, depending on how things go, she might end up coming in here, and as she throws this punch, this might come over the shoulder, and she'll just take this head and arm position. Most of the time, she's looking, she times it, and she, like I said, she knows what she's doing before it happens, because she can see how frustrated they're getting, and she's going to keep coming in here and check hook, and then keep coming in here, and then check hook cross. And then what's going to happen is they're going to get frustrated, and they're going to throw big, and she's going to be waiting for it and come underneath. Just like a reactive shot, but she does it with a body clinch. From there, she takes it, she breaks their posture backward, and drops them to the ground. That's all she wrote. She will hit that body clinch a lot. Sometimes she gets over the arm. Most of the time she's looking for across the body, under the arm. But sometimes if she can't get it, she can't get it. Against the cage, I want to talk about a couple things that are interesting from here. First of all, generally speaking, what she's looking for is the body clinch. She's going to be pummeling all of her striking. She might throw some knees and stuff, but ultimately what she's looking for is the body clinch. That's what she's really looking for. But sometimes you'll see some interesting things. One of those things, and I can't do it because I'm not flexible enough, but as a featherweight she can do this. She gets in here and she's working, and what you'll see is this knee will come all the way up to a headshot over her arm. And it's crazy flexibility that comes all the way up and strikes. It's very impressive where she breaks them down and then bam, all the way up. Really, it's a flexibility thing based on her weight. Good for her. I can't do it, but it's cool. The other thing is that, like I said, defensively she can be looking to pummel, frame out, create space, and disengage. She does not do a ton of striking from there. But I want to point out the Juliana Pena fight, because this was amazing. It shows how high level she is. That Juliana Pena starts getting in here and controlling, and she just couldn't, like, Shevchenko just could not get her pummels. So what she did instead is, well, she's throwing this knee strikes, bam, bam, bam. She goes, okay. She eats a couple, And then eventually she times it, she catches it, and pops her down and takes her down. And then they get back up, and Juliana Pena decides, okay, I'm going to mix up the timing. So she knows she can't catch it. So what does she do? And she's coming here. Right? She just waits for a knee, and she just bumps her hips as the knee comes up, and goes, PAM! Takes her down. It's brilliant timing, and it's a brilliant response to, like, look, I can't stop your knees, I can't pummel in. Okay, I'll just time it and bring you down. Very, very nice execution. It shows really skill level and timing and just how masterful she is at countering any technique from anywhere. Really brilliant stuff. So that's pretty much for takedowns and counters. You will occasionally see her do counter shooting as a reactive shot. It doesn't happen a lot, but she has done it on occasion. Mostly, like I said, what she's looking for is she wants that body clinch. And once she gets it, man, she hits this on everybody. And once she gets it, people go down. She will sometimes mix it up with an outside trip, inside trip, stuff like that. But generally speaking, once she gets a hold, she's going to ragdoll you down. She's going to pop those hips forward, and you're going backward. So that's it for takedowns, okay? All right, for the last part, I want to talk about jiu-jitsu a little bit, because this is a very important, and once again, it shows a very systematic approach. She does the same thing every time in her jiu-jitsu because it works. If she gets taken down, she's very good about recovering to a closed guard. Once she gets here, it's about posture control and bicep control. You will occasionally see her working to a high guard and start working for like arm bars and stuff like that. But for the most part, what she's going to do is she'll throw some, as they start to posture up, she throws some punching and postures and breaks them back down. Eventually, she's going to just either wait till the end of the round or get back to her feet. This is pretty much it. She does not have this crazy guard. She will, she did armbar Juliana Pena, and it's because she worked from the closed guard. I'm not very stretched out right now, but she gets to her closed guard. She works to a high guard. She gets her hips off the line, and she gets the armbar. Really, really a nice execution. Now, from the top, and this is where I want to spend more time, because from the guard, it's basically just kind of like she controls them, waits for the round to end, or waits till she can create a gap, kick off, and get back to her feet. But from the top, she does some scary stuff. What you will see a lot of times from the top is this. If she gets to a top half, the first thing she'll do, and actually I'll bring out my kicking bag and see if I can illustrate it on this. As she gets here, her head's going to come all the way to the far side, and she's going to cross face. She'll start throwing knees and elbows, but she's looking to put this knee up in the armpit. And what's going to happen is eventually this knee is going to get free. Whether she does a knee cut or she just opens it up or pushes the knee off, whatever it is, this knee is going to get free. She's going to put it in the hip, and then this fight might as well be over. Because from right here, what she's going to do is her head is pinning this arm to the ground. She's already started her crucifix before she even got the knee free. She pins it down and she controls it with this arm. Now from here, she takes this hand and she feeds it to her crucifix. She ties up her legs, she keeps here, and this fight's over. And no matter what that person does, they're not getting out of it. Sometimes they'll try to throw their legs around and eventually they'll get out, they just give up a back, in which case she just back mounts and no problem. But generally, she does the same thing every time. She gets to a top half guard, and then from right here, she puts her head on the ground. She's willing to come forward a little bit because she's posted here. She cross faces. She starts getting control of this arm. She might throw some elbows and knees here. But eventually, she's going to get this foot free. She might knee cut. She gets it free, and then she takes this arm, because her head is keeping this arm pinned. She takes this near side arm, and she feeds it over her foot, triangles it, and she just keeps them and destroys them in a top crucifix. That side control crucifix is money for her. She has done a lot of damage to a lot of fighters from there. And the thing is, even if they do get out, they've just spent 3 minutes getting their head pounded in for an entire round. Not only is it bad for their morale, but it looks bad for the judges. And a lot of times they just escape to a worse position like a back control. So this is the majority of her top position in jiu-jitsu. It's scary. The other thing I want to mention is inside of a closed guard. The last thing I want to talk about, because, sometimes she fights. She falls to the inside of a closed guard. Once again, nothing flashy from here. She goes and she works her, a lot of times when she falls with her hands underneath. And she has underhooks because she had the body clinch. So she falls into underhooks. So what does she do? She takes her time and she gets on top of the biceps. And she is very slow to posture up. She takes her time until she knows she has total control of the biceps. And then when she does, she comes up, bam! And she comes back down and she keeps tight. And then eventually she waits till they move around a little bit and then bam! And then she might start attacking more earnestly. Bam, bam, bam! But then she regroups and she always comes back to this tight position. No passing, no stacking, nothing fancy. She just stays tight, postures up, elbow strike. And she catches them, and nobody stops it. Like, it's a systematic approach. She does the same thing every time to people, and they can't do anything about it because she's so good at it. So that's the majority of her jiu-jitsu ground. Now, I'm going to finish on that note. I hope you enjoyed this, guys. Thanks for watching. Make sure you're throwing comments below on there's things that you want to see, if there's things that you find enjoyable about it. Personally, I'd like to see her have another fight with Nunes, because that last one could have gone very differently. And I felt like it took too long for them to engage. Then Shevchenko kind of pushed the takedown she shouldn't have gone for. She lost position. Nunes took her down, and that's what lost her the fight. But that fight could have gone the other way. I almost think she was up on 4 rounds, a very light engagement, whereas a chess match. It was a tough fight. So I'd like to see a rematch at some point. They haven't fought since 2017. That's what I want to see, because right now, Amanda Nunes, I love her. She's amazing, and she's pound for pound the greatest for a reason. But I think if you give her another fight with Shevchenko, who knows how that fight goes. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys.